Honestly speaking, dude, like streaming and content creation is just like the real world. It didn't used to be, probably like in the early, like when a lot of these other streamers who've been like legacy streamers, legacy content creators who've been streaming for like, 15 years and stuff like that. When they started, it was you could just hop on and just play a game, and that was pretty much all you need to do, and you could get the exposure. Like you would eventually go. Whereas now, streaming and content creation is very much just like the real world, where it's like it's more so about who you know. It's not about what you do. It's more so about who you know. Unfortunately, streaming and content creation is much more like that nowadays. It's more about who you know. So if you don't know the right people, don't have the right resources, then naturally, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you. And it's kind of like how they always say, like, how like basketball players will always tell you, like, dude, it's like some of the greatest basketball players aren't even in the NBA. They're that random dude, at the park, who's always hooping there, at 24/7 hours a day. It's that random unk at the park. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like the same thing, but they just never have the resources or the opportunities to get into the position to have that opportunity to shine, right? So, dude, so hard now. I stopped because the grind was real. Oh yeah, the grind is very real. Like you can't just, like you can't just stream and stuff like that nowadays. You have to be doing both. You have to be streaming. You have to be making videos, on multiple different things. So it's it's really like, I mean, and then obviously, like I said, if you don't have the resources, because if you have the resources, you can just
In my previous
you can
match,
just focus
I
on the
slipped.
content itself and like streaming and stuff like that. And then you have an editor and stuff like that who makes your videos. So it takes that pressure off you, because for those who are not aware, editing and making videos takes a very, very, very long time. Like my Looper guide, that was like what? I think it was like 45 minutes video. Um, and that whole process from start to end, like filming it, editing it, uh, and even before that, writing down, like going over the character, studying the character, testing the character, going into here,
I
making
shall
sure all
have
this
no
information is
one
accurate,
tarnishing
write down notes
victory's
on it,
honor.
how I want to present it, write down little keynotes about, displays and, the icons that pop up, going over team comps, and then, testing those team comps and putting down, with the pros and the cons of those team comps, the weapons, the whole process. And then on top of that, going in and then having to record it, and then going in and having to edit it, chop stuff out, fix audios, uh, all that stuff, uh, adding stuff, doing, just that's just it's a whole process, bro. Like from start to finish is probably like 10 hours worth of like straight work, probably for like one of those videos. So it's like, yeah, it's a doozy. Crazy how talented people are, and they just don't have the limelight. Oh yeah, for sure, for sure, absolutely. Because like I said, it's time, and time is money, of course. And it's just like they don't have the resources. Like, like I said, the videos, bro, like take a very long time. Like if you have an editor, if you have a good editor, like a lot of these people do, like you look at pretty much like all the top, like a lot of the top streamers or top YouTubers, they have editors, like the ones who stream and stuff. They have editors. Like they don't touch their YouTube channels like at all. They have people who just make those videos. They watch the streams, then they just take it, and then they do all editing and stuff. All they do is just stream. I just have people who just make these videos for them, pop them on YouTube. YouTube videos get millions of views. They're good. They just make essentially a passive income. I mean, obviously they're paying the editor, but they have those resources to do that. So it also alleviates stress from streaming, and it allows for fresher streams because you're not stressed out over that stuff as well. You kind of just go and just kind of do whatever, not really stressing about that. So it allows your streams to actually probably be better as well, because your time isn't divided between all that stuff. So like I said, it's just like the real world. Streaming and content creation very much is like a second job. It very much is, and it can very easily be a full-time job. Like I say, I've worked in a lot of different fields, and honestly speaking, streaming, like content creation, mentally is probably the most difficult thing that I've had to juggle and handle, probably. like ever. Now I've worked in all different types of fields, whether that be in offices, whether that be in hard physical labor, whether that be in 120-degree heat in a warehouse lifting heavy parts and operating heavy machinery. You know what I'm saying? Whether that be in entertainment, whether that be in retail or food. You know what I'm saying? I would say that streaming and content creation is the most mentally taxing, for sure. Unless, of course, you are a super big streamer, and then, of course, then you don't have that, because now you can just kind of do whatever, and you can just do whatever, and pretty much, like, people are going to show up and support your stuff. When you're a super big content creator, right? But when you're a smaller content creator, pretty much, it's the same thing as being an entrepreneur, start your own business. Whereas, like, every fleeting moment, even when you're not streaming or making content creation, you're thinking about streaming and content creation. Pretty much, like, it's constantly on your mind. So you're essentially working 24/7, essentially. So it's like I said, it's definitely like the most mentally taxing thing. Because the thing about like a regular job, is that you don't really have to think a whole lot. I mean, you can't. You know what I'm saying? Like, to a degree. I mean, of course, if you're in a high management role, then there is some thinking involved. But pretty much, it's just like you know what you're getting into. You're going in every day at the same time, and you're more or less doing the same type of task every day, right? And of course, if you're not management, if you're just kind of just a normal role, then you're essentially just going in. You're just doing the same thing every day, more or less. You know what I'm saying? More or less, you are. So there's not anything really mentally about that. It's just really a matter of getting to a routine and waking up and actually physically, going into work, or if you work from home, just physically locking in to do work. But there's nothing overly mentally tasking about it, because once the day's over. There's a separation of work and life. Whereas, like, when you're kind of a small content creator or a streamer or whatnot, there's that separation doesn't exist. It more or less doesn't exist, 9-to-5s are the worst. Yeah, 9-to-5s are. I mean, it depends on what you're doing. But for the most part, yeah, 9-to-5s are the worst. But it depends on what you're doing, because I mean, if you love what you're doing, then it's not terrible. It just depends on what you're doing. If you don't have a videographer, it's tough. Did you play the TCG for this game? Yeah. I played it. We made a video on it. But getting on cam after your 9-to-5 is even worse. Exactly. Correct. And people, I think that people also don't understand that too. That, the whole aspect of streaming and stuff is that I think that a lot of times people will see streaming and they'll be like, oh, dude, it's easy. You sit there, you play a game, or you sit there, you watch content, or you watch videos, or whatever. Which, I mean, yeah, people who just watch videos, that's pretty easy. But at the same time, you have to realize that you are an entertainer. So people don't realize that until like they actually like stream or whatnot. Because at the same time, you have to be engaged with your chat. You have to be a master of literally talking to a wall. You have to understand. You have to be comfortable with being able to talk to a wall, essentially. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're not comfortable being able to talk to a wall, then you probably shouldn't stream. You feel me? Because you have to be able to deliver that same type of experience, regardless of if someone's chatting or if no one's chatting.
In my previous
you feel me?
match,
It's like there's always lurkers and stuff like that. People who just enjoy your content, and you have to be able to deliver that in an entertaining way, in some way, shape, or form, right? So there's a whole, like I said, like streaming and content creation is by far the most mentally taxing type of thing that I've ever had to deal with. And like I said, I've worked in a lot of different fields, so I definitely understand. I'm definitely not just saying that to say it. It's not the most physically or whatever difficult or whatever, but it's definitely the most mentally taxing, for sure.
Spikesu content.